Hello and welcome to the Author Switch podcast. Today is a very special episode. It is the very first, what I'm calling the Author Switch Clinic. Basically, I invite you, my audience, to come onto the show and get coached live for free for the podcast. I will do this once a month. So if after watching this, you would like to be my next coaching clinic patient, then go ahead and let me know. There is a link in the show notes. You can go there and there's a little application. And my first guest, my first patient, so to speak, is Linny Bott. She's just come out with this book called You're a Billboard Baby because your personality isn't the first thing people see. Too bad, huh? Wouldn't it be nice if that were true? But alas, they look at you before you ever open up your mouth. And I bet you she'll tell you that your personality shines through your clothes, whether you like it or not. Anyway, so I'm going to bring up our wonderful guest after this opener.
Are you an entrepreneur, small business owner, or consultant looking to boost your authority, influence, and impact? The Author Switch podcast with best-selling, award-winning author Carma Spence is your answer. Tune in for actionable advice, powerful strategies, and engaging interviews to turn on your author switch and take your business to the next dimension.
The Author Switch.
Hello, and welcome back to the Author Switch podcast. I am your host, Carma Spence, and I help entrepreneurs write, publish, and market client attracting books so that they can grow their business. And today is the very first Author Switch Clinic episode in which I will be providing some coaching to Linny Bott, author of You're a Billboard Baby, because your personality isn't the first thing people see. So tell me, Linny, just a little bit about your book and why you believe your personality isn't the first thing people see.
Hi, Carma. Thank you so much for having me. And it's a thrill to be here. Congratulations on all of the successes that you've had and providing an opportunity for the listeners to experience something like this with being able to be coached by someone with your experience. It's an honor. Very grateful for that. Thank you. The book was something that has always been in my heart in the sense that you get so much information in your head. And I think that when I would get into some discussions and I start off in the book about, people have questions, right? They love this topic, but most people are a little bit apprehensive about it. They feel very, firm in their decision about, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I look. I get hired in my position regardless. It's all about my abilities and it's all about my personality. And what we wear doesn't matter anymore. And office culture doesn't have any effect to it. And I firmly disagree. I just think with being over, I've got over 3 decades of experience in the beauty and fashion industry. And I know firsthand men and women care about their appearance and they recognize that at any given moment, it changes, right? There's moments in time where maybe running errands, it doesn't affect us, but what about running errands and then going to work and then going somewhere after work? It started spreading wider and thinner than we expected. And we all recognize that making a first impression matters, but I believe that we're always making a first impression. So
Yeah.
while we're always making an attempt, I mean, we all have to wear clothing. That's non-disputed. We understand that.
Unless
The
you're in a nudist colony.
This is true. This is true. Apart from that, then it's illegal, right? So everywhere else we go, we recognize we're showing up. We are our own billboard. We are representing a message about how we think about how we feel, and how we feel reflects on the outside. Would be great to represent ourselves and our personality to the best of our abilities, but we do end up getting into a habitude, which is a habit and an attitude based on a belief. And once that kind of squeezes in there and gets to roll over into the next and the next and the next, we end up in a style rut. It doesn't always happen. But on the other hand, when you're getting to feel that you're just doing things on repeat, you're opening your closet and not feeling like you're talking to a bunch of friends, then we tend to feel over and over again that by all accounts, you're in a style rut, and I think that it would be a great way to inspire and inform people to just stop and look at what's going on. And the story I tell in the book is reflective of that, of a woman who I worked with who had that opportunity to just go through a lot of the questions and a lot of the apprehensions that I see with a lot of my clients. And it was just a story that was on my heart. And I wanted to share and be able to say, here, just think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
It's a book to inspire and inform, enlighten, and hopefully make you smile, make you laugh, and kind of. I've heard, the feedback I've gotten is a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, that bit about always wearing black, yeah, that's me." And ooh, that bit about being in a style rut, yeah, I'm starting to recognize that. And yeah, I don't really do my hair very often. And as a hairstylist, makeup artist, and an image consultant, I take all of that into account because often people will care about one thing more than the other. I'll
Yeah.
have people say they love getting their hair done, but they don't really care about their clothing, or they kind of just they're pretty casual and they kind of hover back, or they
Mhm.
they really don't like to wear much makeup, or they used to wear makeup when they had time and now they just don't know what to do with it. So at any given moment there, or at a stage of your life, it can be something that, whether it's your midlife world, whether it's just getting out of a profession, whether it's starting a new one, whether you're starting as a solopreneur, there's different stages, and all of a sudden we can feel like, geez, I really need to put up a new appearance. I need to rethink this in a
Yeah.
way that is reflecting more about where you're at in your life. So
Yeah, I
that's
totally get that. I mean, after 13 years of a really bad marriage, my wardrobe had become Frumpville because I think subconsciously I was trying to be ugly.
wow.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So
it absolutely reflects how you're feeling. I mean,
exactly.
without question, it might be an unconscious decision, but, enclothed cognition is a scientific explanation done by professors at Stanford University who put men and women in 3 categories. And, the study itself was based around the idea of a white lab coat. One group was told that it was a painter's coat, and then they had to do different tasks. And another group just walked past the coat and was told, "Oh, that's just a lab coat." And then and I'm paraphrasing here, so if I'm not absolutely correct on this, and then had to do the tasks. And then another group was told to put the coat on and that it was a doctor's coat and to perform the tasks. And the group who did the painter's coat versus the doctor's coat was remarkable in the sense that they took the profession more seriously, the tasks at hand more seriously. They felt more on point. They felt, you
Mhm.
know, much more specific. And I'm not getting the language right because the study's not right in front of me, but what they recognized was there's a huge correlation between how you feel in the clothing that you wear, and the clothing that you wear impacts the way that you feel. So it's very cyclical,
Mhm.
and it really impacts your environment, the people around you, the way that you're received, perceived,
Ab
and you make an impression before you even open your mouth. So
Absolutely, absolutely,
it's
and even the colors you wear affects because I'm doing a lot of research on how color affects creative block, and it's amazing how, like, like a yellow might give you more energy to write, whereas a red might give you energy boost at first and then make you angry.
agitated.
Yeah, so I also don't have that research in front of me, but that's part of the research that I'm doing. Well, let's get down to what we're here today. What do you need? How can I help you?
Well, with all your experience of not only just writing books, but also acknowledging that you've managed to get your books to award-winning and best-selling. I mean, it's something that I think as a new author, you start out thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm going to sell all these books, and it's going to give me all this credentials and credibility." And once you've written a book, once you've climbed the mountain, I said writing a book was like climbing a mountain in flip flops. It really was, so many moments of new, right? There's another level and another level of learning things. So now that I've written the book, and now that, the baby's been born, it's kind of, now what? There's a little bit of, how does somebody get it to be a bestseller? How do I get this in front of people? What does it take to get to that point?
Right. Well, there there's good news and bad news. The good news is it's never too late to start marketing your book, and once you finish writing the book, that's pretty much what you're going to be doing. The way I say it is you market your book until your book's no longer relevant.
Mm,
And that can be anything. I mean, it can still be a good book, it's just no longer relevant to you, so you don't want to expend the energy to market it. But basically, you just market it until you choose not to have it make any money anymore. It's an ongoing thing. Ideally, you started the marketing before you even wrote the book,
mm,
in an ideal world. I know that's not always ideal because a lot of people, possibly you, get this brilliant idea, "I'm gonna write a book," and then they just leap right into it, and they don't think about all the things that go around into making that book successful, because alas, if you write it, they won't come necessarily. It's like it's not a field of dreams, but it can
exactly.
be. It can be if you know what's going on behind the scenes of the field of dreams. So, what goal do you have for this book? What are you trying to achieve with it?
I want people to feel inspired, informed, and uh, gain insight into feeling better about their appearance and realizing that there's a process to it. I will be offering a course. I'm also creating my first course online that flows from the book into the course so that people can join the academy who want to continue to be inspired, learn, and get insight into how they can build their own blueprint of personality and independent style, and recognize that they're always out there as a billboard, and show up on a regular basis feeling great about their appearance.
Okay, so I think I heard 2 goals there. One is for the reader, that they will be inspired and maybe take action to improve their billboardness.
Yes.
And the other one is to help grow your business.
Yes, absolutely. I also recognize that I wanted to be, have the book help reach more people, and be recognized as a key person of influence, and a key person of authority based on having a book written.
Okay. All right. So now you just launched this, right?
I just did. I
Okay.
just I just did my first "It's Here" video.
Okay. All right. So it's not, I mean, it's launched as in people can buy it now, but it's not launched as in you've given its debutante ball.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So now there are different kinds of bestseller lists. The easiest one to get on is Amazon. There used to be a whole bunch of them. A lot of them have died away. I think the only one really available now is maybe New York Times. And there's no really, I mean, if you spend like $10,000, you can get on that list, but there's no easy way to do it. And you can never, even if you spent that much, there's no way to guarantee it, because most bestseller lists, like on Amazon, that's based on how many books sold. New York Times is based partially on how many books sold and partially on the editors just deciding they like the book. So you can't
Oh,
guarantee it.
okay. Mhm,
That's, yeah,
gotcha.
that's a little behind the scenes news. It's not so great. So Amazon bestseller is definitely within your grasp. The best way to do that is to choose a category, because you're going to have lots of categories. A category is how Amazon categorizes it, organizes it. And each category has a certain amount of competition, which means in one category, you could sell 5 books and become bestseller, but in another category, you have to sell 205. So you want to choose a category that is appropriate for your book, but doesn't have a lot of competition. And that's kind of an art. You kind of have to experiment with that. So, for example, with Serve Up Your Book, I initially put it in the marketing category where I was up against Dan Kennedy, who is a
Wow.
big, big, big name in the marketing world. And after I realized trying really hard and couldn't get above like number 10, I'm like, this is the wrong category. So I went looking at other books like mine, found different categories, and just by switching the category, I jumped up 10 points.
Mhm. That's
So
amazing. Okay.
so what I recommend doing is what other books out there are like this one? Take
Hmm.
a look at the competition within those categories and choose the one that you think you can basically sell more in.
I okay, the struggle here is because it's in the beauty and fashion genre,
Right.
it also fell under self-help, which I know is an enormous
Yeah.
genre. It's an enormous genre. I just don't know how can you get creative when you have a general genre?
Well, first, and this was a question I was going to ask earlier. You said you want people to feel good about this, but people, I mean, people are reading it. Yes, the people who read this are people, but they're more than just people. They're a specific kind of people.
Right.
What kind of people are you hoping will read this book and then join your course?
Busy professional women who find themselves sort of more, I would say, past, the 40th birthday phase, somewhere where you've had a bit of, life behind you, but a whole lot more still in front of you,
Mhm.
and I use the word midlife, but I don't really think that that is a definitive timeline.
No, it's probably more like 40 plus. Although
Yeah.
even if you say 40 plus, someone who's 35 will probably pick up the book anyway.
Exactly. It's sort of an identity that you have fallen into a style rut. Now, I do mention in the book that I did write this book for women in their midlife,
Mhm.
because I do feel that that specific group of us women who are always hot and uncomfortable and we're just looking to be, in our lane, just give me some clothes to wear where we feel good about ourselves. Life has changed, body shapes have changed. We're still on the responsibility side of whether there's, you know, grown children or just children starting to get into university or just leaving or still at home, then we're still taking care of our parents. So now that I think about the answer a little bit more clearer, I say over 40, but it really is for a busy woman who has that sense of responsibility on many fronts.
Okay.
And maybe they've experienced some body changing, that perimenopause, menopause phase where, you can all of a sudden look in the mirror and maybe not recognize the person looking back at you and think, when did these changes happen? I did this, and what do I do about this? And so that often is kind of where our frumpy starts because
Right.
we just things happen and we don't know what to do, and we start kind of, you know, falling
Grabbing
back,
the sweatpants.
hiding
It's
behind our
easier.
clothes, hiding behind our clothes. Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you
So
say
probably more that age range. Yeah.
and when you say professional, do you mean like women who are career women, like are in like corporations, or are you talking about entrepreneurs, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, it's definitely, and really it's busy professional women, it's busy women. It's busy women who may have a full-time career, may be solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, maybe work outside the home, but I think the identity here is that it's for people who are really, recognizing that maybe it's time to kind of stop judging the woman in the mirror, stop ignoring the woman in the mirror and
Mhm.
go, okay, wait a second, feeling good is important to me. I say, and I stand by this firmly, comfort is a feeling, not a style. So, what you really need to help, I want this book to help people, women who are busy, who are struggling with their appearance, who might be, subconsciously sabotaging their appearance because they're not necessarily feeling as familiar with the person looking in the mirror as they once did, and they feel like it's past them, and they're not maybe feeling as attractive as they once were, and I want to bring that to the forefront and help them really feel good
Okay.
about themselves.
So in the way of categories, I would probably, I mean, I don't know obviously I do not know Amazon's categories just at the top of my head, but I'd probably look into career, professional, self-employed, see if there's something in there where this would fit. Because I
Okay.
bet there might be a nuance, because in a way you're talking about personal branding. So it might go in a personal branding kind of section. I would also, I mean, you get 3 categories. You used to get 10, you
Oh,
only get 3. And, I guess they got tired because they always had 3 that you could just enter, and then you could email them and ask for the other 7. They've put the kibosh on that. You get 3,
okay.
period. If you don't find a lot in that sort of career, personal branding area, then I would have at least 1 that was fashion, just so that it kind of dovetails it. But I think that because what you're trying to do is find a category that the people you want to read it are more likely to start looking for, which also means you're going to want some really good long tail keywords that are like 3 words or more, like 3 to 4 words long. I've used ChatGPT to get those keywords sometimes. Now, keywords and categories are different. Categories are, this is what Amazon says they are, and you have to find one that fits. And sometimes you have to dig in several different categories to find the one you're looking for. It's not fun. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth. One way you can make that go faster is find another book that's in that category, and then look at the category, and sometimes it'll tell you a little bit of the breadcrumb trail that led to that category. Sometimes
Okay.
it doesn't. So that's one way to do it. And then keywords are words that you can place on top. There's another section in like KDP or something. Did you put this into KDP or is it somewhere else?
I didn't self-publish, so I would still have to connect with the publisher and just get a little bit more familiar with some of the questions maybe I should be asking them.
Okay.
What keywords do they use? And I know that we did discuss category pretty sure. We ended up in self-help because I wasn't thrilled with that, but I think
Just,
that's where I
I
landed.
think if you,
Yeah, but I'm
if
wondering if we can change it afterwards.
yes, you can. You absolutely can. It may take a little bit
Okay.
for them to propagate, but yes. I mean, like I said, I changed my categories. It took about 24 hours and then the categories were changed and it was
Okay.
much nicer to see my book higher up. So categories can affect that. Then what you want to do is do some form of marketing campaign to sell as many books as you can within about 1 to 2 weeks, because that's what's going to bring it up into the bestseller.
Right. It's that gold rush of
Yeah,
an
yeah.
attention.
So people who've already bought aren't going to help you anymore because they've already bought. You need new people. So now it depends on how many followers you have. I have gotten my books up to bestseller simply by posting on social media because I just happen to have enough followers that were interested in that topic. I've had other books that I posted and posted and posted, and it didn't get to bestseller. It's a combination of how interesting your book is to the followers you currently have, whether they've just bought a book or not, and also the price of the book and all these things. And it's really hard to solve for all of them at the same time. So what I recommend, especially for a newer author who may not have that big of a following, I don't know how big your following is to have a launch like party. And when I say party, I mean that can be in person. They're a lot of fun. They're also a lot of work, and they can cost more money than they bring in, but they also give you all sorts of other stuff that could eventually lead to more money down the road. Or you can have a virtual party. And what's cool about a virtual party is you can do things with your theme. Because think like, I mean, have you had a birthday party where you had a theme?
Yes.
Well, do the same thing for your book. This has several themes that you could throw a party around. You could have a billboard party.
Fun.
And I mean, you could interpret Billboard in multiple ways and have it as a theme that brings your audience together so that they're having fun, they're learning about your book, they're buying your book.
Right.
And then if you have like a book tour that follows that, so you have the party, the big launch party that says, ta-da, here's my book. And you have this big push and maybe you could sell during your launch party enough books to get you to bestseller, but then you want that to continue. You don't want to go bestseller and then drop.
Yeah.
So you want a little bit of ongoing for a few weeks after that. And the way you do that is to be continuously in front of potential people. You can do that by having like a weekly webinar. You can do that by having a book tour where you show up on other people's blogs, podcasts. You can try and get media attention, get on the radio. TV's the golden dream. I haven't done that yet, but I have been on terrestrial radio. And just constantly have, not only are you showing up in different places, but you're talking about that in social media so that your followers and your newer followers are continually excited about the book, which means even if they bought a copy, now they'll like, well, you know what? I have a friend. I'm going to buy this for my friend. Or they'll spread the word saying, hey, I just got this new book and the author is doing all this cool stuff. You should come along. It just basically built. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. What I did say in my first post was tag me in a picture of you when you buy the book. And I'm going to do a live, like a book party, and where we can chit and chat about the book a bit more and you can ask me questions. So anyone who's tagged me with the picture, so that they're also posting it on social media, they're also recognizing I got this book, they've tagged me in it. It's just helping to do some cross promoting.
I did that, but I did it early on. So I don't know how it helped the overall.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I know, it's great. Okay, that's good. That's very helpful just to even just start the ball rolling, right? Just get some
exactly.
ideas going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, in an ideal world, you would have been planning this before you picked up your first book, ideally, but that's okay. It's never too late to start. Figure out what your plan. I mean, continue to do the daily things like post this. And I loved your little TikTok you shared. It was it was so cute. You were
Thanks.
so Linny. It was wonderful. But continue to do that just to kind of like so people don't forget about it. But while you're doing that in the background, plan out something. And if you don't want to do it yourself, there are people who are very affordable who can manage a book tour for you. There's one website I use that's called writtenword.com that for like 30 bucks will send out an email to their list. I raised my book by like 10, 15 points just by having them do
Oh
that.
wow.
So I mean, it depends on, I mean, I think most of their books are not about writing. So my book may not have been a great fit for that. But your books, I think, would appeal to a wider audience than my books. So you might consider doing one or more there. I'm doing another one of theirs on the 25th. So that's that's an option. And doing all these things over a period of time
Hmm.
helps sort of game the algorithm so that it's continuing.
That's exciting.
Then if you have specific people that you know, okay, this person would be a great fit for my program, there's something you can do with the book where you mail it to them with a personal note. And that is one strategy I teach where you you buy like 10 copies of your book, which like if you were doing it through KDP, a physical book might cost you $2 a book. I don't know because you've got a publisher in, it's probably a little bit more than that. When I had a publisher, it was like 3 times that. So per book. But if like 10, find 10 people that you think would be ideal clients. I mean, and to the best of your knowledge, because you never know. And you may put it in like get one of those, you get them at the mail for the priority mail. Have a nice personal note that is like, I saw you said this on your blog post, or whatever that bridge is that connects, that says, I thought of you when you did this thing or said this thing, and I think this book would help you with this thing. Basically, connect your book to them in some way that's concrete that they'll go, oh, I can see why she would think that. and you write that personal note that connects you, and then just mail it to them, and then follow up with them like in a week and say, hey, did you get the book? Did you like it? And that starts a conversation that after a little bit can turn into do not send it to them saying, I want to sell you something. Do it with the intent of, I want to build a relationship with you that may eventually get you buying something. But right now, I just wanted, I think this would help you. And I wanted to start a conversation.
That's a wonderful concept. I love that. And people love experiencing something in the mail, right? They love getting something in the mail.
Oh, yeah. And books. I mean, well, I'm a bookaholic, so I may not be an average person, but I think people really like to receive books, especially if it's a surprise and they didn't see it coming.
Right. It's a great
And if it's
idea.
got a heartfelt message, that way you don't want that letter to look like I've written the same letter for everybody. It's very, very important that it almost harkens
Yeah.
back to those days, like when Napoleon was writing letters to Josephine. Maybe not a romance letter, but I mean, back when we were writing letters like with our hands
And
and,
our hearts. And
our
our
hearts.
hearts. Right.
And if you can do it handwritten, that's even better than having it typed up, because it adds another, and get a card, get a little card with a little heartfelt message in there. That makes it all those little things, little details, I guess, sort of like which earring are you going to wear? Those little details,
Well, you know what? In my book, I say one of my favorite sayings, one of my favorite quotes is small hinges swing big doors.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're saying, right? In order to, you never know. There's every act when it's intentional and it's from the heart and it's authentic and genuine. And that's exactly what my message is. You don't have to look like everybody else. You don't have to conform. You don't have to, just because you're in this particular industry, mean that you have to look like this sort of thing. Or if you hold this position, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to, go into a professional corporate appearance. And so that's exactly what I would love to help people establish, not feeling that they have to change their appearance, not feeling like they can't be themselves and compromise their comfort. But on the other hand, they have every right to feel as great about their appearance, and leveling up a little and adjusting and making those tiny details, to your point,
Yeah.
really can just one after the other, accelerate an appearance and just feel good about yourself. So I think what you've just given with me is such an important way to look at it, to think, how can I connect in an authentic way? How can I be genuine? What a lovely experience to give something to someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to connect to something. I love that. I love that.
So there you go. Is there anything else I can do in this last few minutes?
I think, don't want to be overloaded either, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, what you've explained to me really, I think that's where the fog is, right? Having that person to talk to
Right.
who has the experience like yourself, right? Where you can say, I don't really know what to do next.
Mhm.
And so you've given me enough of the insight from experience. And I think that's the difference here, recognizing what questions to ask. I wasn't sure because
Right.
they're lofty, right? How can I make $1 million from selling a book? And yet, let's look at step one. Let's look at step two.
Right.
Let's look at step three. And it's practical advice. I really am
Yeah.
very appreciative of that because it makes sense.
Right. It
And
always makes me think of that scene in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, where the Winter Warlock has ceased to be the evil Winter Warlock, and now he's just an ordinary warlock. And they do that whole song, put one foot in front of the other. That's what you do. One
yeah,
foot in front of the other.
yeah, yeah. And it was such a relief to finish the book. It was such an experience. I don't want to jump in and say my next book yet. I want to focus on this because the experience was, your first time, and now the experience of the next journey, the
Yeah.
marketing, the getting it in front of people and that sort of thing. So your advice is and experience is so appreciated. Thank you so much for giving me a place to start now and understanding it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, this is the end of this episode of the Author Switch podcast. Will be back next week with a new topic. Ciao for now. Did you find that helpful? Would you like to be on the show to get coached for free? Then go to authorswitch.com/clinic to learn more about this opportunity and apply. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Author Switch podcast and would like to show your support, there are a few ways that you can do that. First, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Additionally, leaving a rating and review would greatly help me reach more listeners and continue providing valuable content. To stay up to date with the Author Switch podcast and gain access to additional information on amplifying your authority, influence, and thought leadership through books, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Carma Spence. For those interested in catching up on previous episodes, including those no longer available on podcast platforms, you can find them all at authorswitch.com/episodes, where you can choose to watch or listen to them at your convenience. Thank you so much for your support and for being a part of the Author Switch community.